Chapman is absent. Councilmember Clayton.
Say here.
Here. Deputy Mayor Quinn. Here. Mayor Moore.
Here.
Please stand for a silent prayer, moment of reflection.
Before, and we do this every meeting, but we lost a true Asbury Parker this week in Carol Torrey, so I would hope you remember her in your moment of silence for Carol. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the following manner. The annual notice was forwarded to the Asbury Park Press, the Coaster, and the Star Ledger on January 22nd, 2024, and posted on the bulletin board the same date. All notices are on file with the city clerk. We're now on to special events applications.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
The 15 applications that are under consideration for this evening have been reviewed and approved by the Special Events Committee. One change is that the Lobster Run 5K has been canceled by the applicant, so the application can be pulled. Are there any questions on the other 14 applications?
Yep, they're all return events.
Yep, returning events, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now on to items to be presented. Item is JLD Investment Group, LLC, a development project for property located at 705 2nd Avenue, the Holy Spirit Church.
Hi, folks. I just want to give a quick introduction before the presentation starts by the developers. Just for the record, my name is Beth McManus. I'm one of the city's planning consultants. So, of course, we're here tonight to hear about Holy Spirit Church's redevelopment proposal. The site is at the corner of 2nd Street and Bond Street. It's a property of about 1.19 acres. As you may know, the project or the site previously received approval to remove the church and replace it with single-family housing, but we're here tonight to listen to a redevelopment proposal that includes retaining the church. The purpose tonight is for the council as well as the public to learn about the project and to be given an opportunity to ask questions and provide comments. But one thing that's not planned for this evening is council action. There's no vote that's planned for this site. This is really just an opportunity to learn and to ask questions about the project. And the other thing I wanted to highlight is the council's looking for input on all aspects of the project. So one of the things that we'll hear is a proposal to repurpose the church. We'll also hear about a proposal to construct an additional building on the property, a residential building, as well as some structured parking. And the applicant is also looking for a financial package from the city for a pilot and a RAB. And so we're looking forward to hearing everybody's comments and questions. And again, I just want to reiterate that there's no action that's planned for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Barry. I'm a professional planner, and I've been working with the applicant, JLD Investment Group. We have Joseph Hanna, who's principal of the applicant here this evening, as well as some other members of our team. Bob Beneke, who's a financial expert. We have Jason Hanrahan from Mode Architects as well. Mayor and Council, good evening. Thank you for taking the time to have us here before you. What I'm going to do is run briefly through a presentation that explains the project to everyone that's present, and then we'll have an opportunity to hear all your comments, your questions. We'll probably direct the questions to some of the other members of the team, depending on what comes up, but we look forward to getting your input so that we can make this project successful for everyone here in the city. So by way of background, I think Beth did a good job of introducing the site, introducing the project, and I'm sure everyone who's here this evening has been following along over the last several years with the plan that's been proposed for the site. This project essentially has its origins in the decision by the Catholic Church to shut down the parish here at corner of 2nd and Bond back in 2021. So the church has not been in operation since the summer of 2021. Since that time, as you heard, there was an application at the planning board for a subdivision and the development of residential properties, which is the only thing that's currently permitted under the R1 zone where the church sits. So the purpose of the meeting this evening is really to understand the path forward for how we can repurpose the church building, retain it as part of the fabric of the Asbury Park community. Again, our goal is to get guidance from the public, guidance from the council, get feedback on the plans that are being proposed. We're offering the plan to you for that consideration, and as well to lay out what is the reality of how to make the project happen, some of the financial needs that the project would have in terms of a partnership with the city moving forward. So this is the overall vision for what's being proposed. You have the church building on the right side, freshened up, retained in its current form. We'll go into what we're talking about for the inside of the building. And then next to it, on what is now the parking lot and the rear portion of the site where the old rectory once, where it stands, you would have a new multifamily building with structured parking, so 2 levels of parking, and a residential building above. Some of the key elements I want to point out here: we have some conceptual ideas for public art, which we would work with the city's Arts Council in terms of how to bring that about. Keeping the corner of the building closest to the church open to preserve the sight lines to the church. When you're coming down 2nd Avenue, you'd have a more open view of the church, preserve a little bit more of that historic look of the church that's been there for a long time. This is a close-up rendering. Again, these are conceptual ideas, open for comment, open for revision. But this would be a look at some of the street level view between the building, the new building on the left, the church on the right. You have some examples of seating areas, gathering spaces, some public art that could be incorporated to create that sense of place on the street, contribute to the community, the arts community in the city.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Are these the same plans you sent us? Because they don't look the same.
This presentation has been revised since the plans that were submitted a couple weeks ago.
So if I base my questions off of these plans, I wasted my time?
I wouldn't say that, sir. I think the nuts and bolts of the proposal are more or less the same. Some of the renderings have been updated to just
Okay, thank you. When will the city get the new plans?
Mr. Barry, we submitted the plans to the city,
Yeah.
not the renderings. These are the renderings that you're showing right now. They're the same plans.
Okay, thank you. So what I have here,
Yes, sir.
A1 through A9 is
That's
correct? Thanks.
Yes, yeah,
Thank you.
and we'll get to those layouts and all of those, the dimensions, the proposed uses.
Thank you.
Thanks. So the Holy Spirit Church, in its hopefully next iteration of its existence, become the sacred stage. And it will include on the ground floor, the main body of the church, a mix of uses, a cafe and eating space, some workspace for artists in the city, where they can have a combined workspace, gallery space that would be open and accessible, a stage that would have some space for performance art, and then a repurposing of some of the pews within the church to create seating areas. And we'll show you all of this. Down in the basement, the main focus would be a theater that would be hopefully, and we're in conversations with the Asbury Park Theater Company to have that be their permanent home, and some flexible office space. So I know at this scale it's a little hard to see, and unfortunately the pointer doesn't work on these screens, but at the top of the drawing you have the altar area, the apse of the church toward the top of the drawing, and that's where the proposed cafe would be located. Then down toward the middle of the nave, you have various seating areas. In the aisles along the sides, that's where the artist workspaces would be installed. So you'd take kind of the natural breaks in the church structure and put some partitions inside that would give some workspace for individual artists, and then some seating areas in the middle for gathering. This is a conceptual rendering of what that might look like. So you would have, as I said, the pews repurposed into seats. You'd have a stage area up toward where the altar was, some seating for a cafe, restaurant type of use, and then some additional gathering space in the middle. This look gives you a better idea of what some of those artist workspaces might look like. You see the hanging prints, paintings, some of the sculptures in the foreground, and those would be the artist workspaces, and again, some of the seating areas that accompany them. As you can see, a lot of the intention is to retain the details of what make the church special in giving it a new use. In the basement, the lower floor of the church, which is really not so much a basement, it's mostly at grade because you walk up the steps into the main floor of the church. Toward the top of our screen, you would have the theater space, approximately 150 seats, using repurposed pews for the bulk of the seating, and the stage area where the basement altar is located. Then toward the middle and bottom of the drawing, you have some of the office space that's proposed. Some private offices partitioned off on the sides, and more of an open office, a working kind of space toward the middle. This is a conceptual look at what the basement theater could look like. You see the stage area in the lower altar, and some of the seating using the repurposed pews, as I mentioned. So now, moving next door onto where the surface parking lot for the church is located today, is a new building that's being proposed to accompany the repurposing of the church. This is called the Crossroads Residential Building. As I mentioned in the opening, it includes 2 floors of parking. We'll talk about how that's broken down and a little bit more about parking, but the big base of the building, 2 floors of parking, and then 6 stories of residential units above that in kind of a zigzag configuration that keeps the corner of the building open, so you have a little bit less bulk hanging out over the church. It's open at the corner for your sight lines. And then some amenity space for the residents, as is typical in all of these types of buildings today. Looking at the floor plans, so this is what would be inside of the building. On the ground floor, you would have parking spaces that would be allocated for the Sacred Stage building. We're showing 55 spaces here. During special events, there would be the ability to utilize some management techniques, a valet service, something like that. Probably get you up to 100 spaces if you had a peak demand period, and we're going to manage it carefully. The second level would be a separate parking level, and these would be designed so that they're not mixed. You're not fighting the residential parking against the commercial parking. The second level would be dedicated for the residential units. Right now, we're looking at about 0.75 spaces per unit, 64, 65 spaces of residential parking. And we'll talk about how we can allocate that, and it's something that I'm sure will be an ongoing conversation. Then moving up from the parking, again, we have the big base of parking. As we go to the 3rd floor of the building, it starts to shrink down a little bit. We pulled in the corner, you can see the white area in the bottom right of the drawing, and then a little bit more white outline around the building. The building gets a little bit smaller as it goes up, so that you have space for windows, you have space for some light and air for the residential units, and some space between the neighbors. And as you go up, you have residential units with a total of 55 1-bedroom units proposed, 32 2-bedroom units, and 3 3-bedroom units. What's important to note is that the project is proposing a percentage of affordable housing. 15 of the proposed 90 units would be designated as affordable housing, and they would be broken down as is required under the regulations in the state, with 3 1-bedroom units, 9 2-bedroom units, and 3 3-bedroom units. So we would certainly work through all of those applicable regulations with the city as we go. Now, as to parking, which we understand is a very important issue, and we've been carefully thinking about this, carefully planning for it, thinking about how to separate the parking for some of the retail, performing arts kinds of spaces versus the residents of the buildings. As I said, 2-level deck with distinct and separate parking availability. For the residential parking, the concept would be to have each of the 2 and 3-bedroom units allocated with 1 reserved space. And then from there, the remaining units would be available on a first-come, first-served basis or some other program that the management works out. For special events, management's key. You want to make sure that there's not overlapping special events. You want to make sure that there's a valet service or other kind of coordination to maximize the parking that's available on site, and as needed, work with the city to utilize other off-site parking if that's appropriate at the time. So understanding that in a day-to-day, we're looking at largely a local audience, especially during the summer. There's a lot of people in town who are walking, biking, scooting all over town. That's one of the best ways to get around, especially when parking is tight and there's a lot of traffic. And so for this kind of use with flexible office space, with artist galleries, we anticipate that a lot of people are going to be coming to the site, walking, biking, scooting, and so forth. So we're committed to building essentially a one space per unit of bike parking into the residential building and accommodating bicycle and scooter parking and so forth as part of the overall site. The building is designed, it has the potential to add stackers for additional parking inside. Not our preference, but physically the building could accommodate them if that's a road that we need to go down later on. Essentially, we see the parking as improving the existing conditions. Right now you have a church with a capacity of over 600 people on the main church floor during peak season. You have 27 parking spaces on the site. The site has also been the host to different uses over the years. There was the rectory even further back. There was a school on the property. So the site has always had a limited parking availability. And we see the new project as reducing the overall capacity of the building whilst doubling essentially the parking that's available on site for the uses in the church. So as a planner, one of the things that I do, what my profession essentially does, is we're thinking about the future, we're planning for the future, we're managing change, and we're considering different alternatives that may be available for how to bring those concepts together. What we're here to talk about essentially is saving the church building, and that is the number one benefit that we see to the proposal that's before you this evening. We have two different alternatives before us essentially. We have one project that's gone through the planning board process. We have another project that we're presenting tonight that in many ways is the preference, I think, and I would hope. So we see that saving the church structure as part of the city's fabric as a vital benefit to the project. Creating a new cultural and artistic space in the city. The city thrives on its arts community. As rents go up, it becomes more and more complicated to find different spaces. The church has a lot of space to offer. It's a sizable building, and maintaining a flexibility and offering that space up to a variety of users is the key to saving it and as a big benefit of this project. Establishing a home for the Asbury Park Theater Company, talked about that in terms of the lower level. Theater company, community theater is a great part of the local artistic vibrancy. City has many music venues, very few venues that are dedicated to other types of performing arts. So we see this as a benefit in terms of solidifying the home for the Asbury Park Theater Company here in the building. Developing a new rental apartment building fills the need in the city, and it providing 15 affordable housing units. Certainly rents continue to go up in the city, and adding more units to the market will help fill market rate needs, and adding affordable units helps fill needs at a different level of income. We also see the project as helping to support Main Street. This isn't a waterfront project. This isn't a Cookman Avenue downtown project. This project is closer to Main Street, in the middle of the Main Street corridor, essentially. There's been a redevelopment plan for that area in place for 15 or so years. And there's been limited activity, as those of you who are in town know. There's been a few things here and there, but we haven't seen a lot of progress along the Main Street corridor. So the hope is that this project would help catalyze additional activity and revitalize a portion of the Main Street corridor. And finally, the public art that we talked about, continue to work with the city, work with the Arts Council to have murals on the building, have other public art installations, as well as the artistic space inside the building. So really, as I said, it's about looking at alternatives. This is a rendering of the 6 single-family homes on the lot where the church is today. And this is the proposal that we're bringing before you to maintain a church building, add a new neighboring building, and bring a mix of uses together to the site. So with that, I will stop talking, and we'd like to hear from all of you and the council. I thank you.
Thank you. I'll start, I guess. You said for the basement and for the seating for the theater, 150, but your plans show 84 seats. So how did it increase?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The gentleman just said for the seating for the theater, 150 seats, but the plans you submitted say 84.
Yeah, we discussed it with the Asbury Park Theater Company. They feel like they would need more seats down there. So we upped it.
Well, I thought that also, but I mean, but we're going with the plans you submit. I didn't think a theater company would want to have a seating capacity of 84.
Right.
So, and then with the other plans, if you go to page A2, which shows the layout of the apartments, right there, you're missing another affordable one bedroom.
Okay.
You only have 4 per floor instead of 5 per floor total, 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
So that's a typo?
Yeah. It'll have 15 affordable units. I think the calculation is 16.7.
And we usually get renderings which have, say, like layouts of the apartments, and we don't have that. So
We haven't got that far yet. We kind of put this together quickly as possible to get, in front of the public and get in front of the council. But we could definitely get that to the council.
Down the road, okay, right.
Yeah.
So this is time to ask the questions. We can get this down the road. Thank you. Will the market units be larger than the affordable units in square footage size?
We haven't really went through the square footage of all the affordable units yet, of exactly what the exact square footage will be, but I don't think necessarily, no. I think that all the 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's legal, if they can be. But I
Right.
mean, it's just something I want to bring to your attention because
Right,
we don't
right.
have anything. It looks like you have 1 elevator and 2 staircases.
Again, that has not been finalized yet. Once we get closer to final architecturals, we'll see just how many elevators we'll need and how many staircases we'll need.
Okay, you show some balconies. Will all the units have balconies?
No,
Will the affordable units have balconies?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Again, I think I know the answers. Again, you say the project will include a dedicated bicycle storage facility.
That's correct.
It's not on the plan, so you can't tell me how large that's going to be.
We actually just had this conversation. We're thinking 90 bikes, at least 1 bike per unit. So
And that would be a
storage
room-
for 90
okay,
bikes.
A room big enough to hold 90 bikes.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. There's also no room to hold garbage or recycling, and cities, ask for it to be large enough to hold a week's worth of.
Yeah.
I don't see that on the plans either.
There will be.
Okay. Mechanicals.
Mhm.
On the roof, in the cellar, where are they going to be?
Maybe it's best that we have our architect come up and
Okay,
answer
no problem.
some of those questions.
Next
John,
person.
Sure, Jason.
This is just out of curiosity question.
Sure.
In your report, under project benefits, you mentioned the other high-rise apartments on Second Avenue. Where are they? I can't find them.
Okay. Well, that was probably right up by John. What exact high-rise building on Second Avenue?
I'm sorry.
There was a high-rise building on Second Avenue, I guess, in the.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Mayor, that was just kind of discussing the overall context of Second Avenue. If you were coming into town and going all
Yeah,
the way.
where's that? You said there's another high-rise on Second Avenue.
One of the housing authority buildings is just off of Second Avenue. There's a 6-story building at this corner of.
Robinson Towers on Third?
Well, that's on Third, and then there's a 6-story building.
Okay.
Just
Okay, I just tried to picture it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
High-rise building. First Avenue? First Avenue.
Down the road, when we get more information from you, could we get a depiction of this building on the block with what's there around it?
Absolutely.
And then also, could we get like a depiction of, this would be the largest building on Main Street at this point in time. And the
Right.
Next largest is the YMCA. So those next to each other, just for reference.
Sure.
And it doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, if it's
Just
like-
some basic massing so
Yeah.
you can get an idea.
I'm not looking for you to spend $10,000 for an architect to
Right.
do a fancy picture. Just
Right.
a stick figure is fine with me.
Okay, no problem.
With the church occupancy and only 55 parking spots. So you got the basement size and the capacity just went up 60 some people. How many flexible spaces for offices?
So I think with the rendering that we have right now, it shows 8 different offices, if I'm not mistaken. Can you pull up that rendering, please?
Yes.
So it shows I think 5 spaces right now.
Okay.
Um,
And I'm looking for ballpark.
1, 2,
I'm not-
3, 4.
not
We're
trying to tie you down
anticipating
to
about 50 people that would come and go throughout that space, whether they're dedicated in a large office space or they're in that kind of open office area, plus or minus about 50.
So instead of going through these one by one, let me just read it and then maybe you can answer them all
Sure.
together because they all tie in together. So you had the basement went up, the flexible spaces, the ground floor, the restaurant's 50 or 66 spaces, and then the stage in front of the altar, we don't know the dimensions yet, but then you're going to repurpose the pews to face the stage. So what's the capacity of that's going to be? And then I'll keep on going. You can add them all up together if you want to, or unless you want to answer them now.
I can give you the seat count in this
Okay.
in this image we're looking at. At the moment, there is 16 seats that are facing the top end here at that bar area, 48 cafe seats, and then 150 seats that are repurposed pews that are scattered through the nave and the artist area in the church, with a total of 214.
Okay, then on the upper floor, a third performance stage. It'll be visible from the seating and gathering space. So I imagine you're going to turn pews around to face upstairs. What would be the seating capacity for that?
So, you're speaking about the
He's talking about the third level.
You're right.
Part.
What
So
you
the way
guys-
the pews are set up right now, they face forward and backwards.
Okay.
So they're multi-use for both stages.
So I guess what I'm looking for, the bottom line, like, what would the total capacity be on the main floor?
We can give you.
yeah, and right now we're showing 214 seats, and that's our anticipated
214 seats plus the restaurant, or
that's included.
okay, 214.
Yeah,
214
Okay, thank you.
total.
But not including the basement, right?
not including the basement. That's just this level on the screen. We have on the lower level. I can give you that. That's
No.
roughly 200. 150 in the theater, and plus or minus 50 in that office area.
Okay, the parking, and I know it's a subject. I know some people don't like it, but it's something that has to be addressed. What would be the dimensions of the parking stalls? Are they mini cars or the regular cars?
As indicated now, they're standard. Your standard parking stalls. All of them are standard.
Okay, so
You have no compact spots indicated yet.
8'6" by 18 feet.
Right now we're showing 9 by 18, but yes. So
Okay, thank you. Are you going to be EV ready or EV in place?
They'll at the moment we haven't thought that far ahead of
Okay.
the actual EV ready specifics, but we will meet our needs in that basement area.
Most likely EV in place.
And I think it's no big deal. You guys said 0.75 per, and
Per unit.
our calculations came out 0.71, and that could go down a little bit also because if you add the retail on the new units,
Yeah.
that includes increased parking also.
That's correct.
Very slight.
Yeah.
Very slight. Would emergency vehicles, be it ambulances, be able to access the first and second floor of the garage to get to people on the third, fourth, and fifth floor?
As it's designed now, yes.
Thank
Correct.
you. Okay, that's very important. Thank you. How will the parking spots be assigned? Is it a lottery? And will people have to pay for these parking spots or are they free?
So for the 2 and 3 bedrooms, they'll automatically be allocated a parking space. For the rest of the units, it'll be a lottery.
Okay.
Yeah.
And paid, or
It'll probably be paid. Yes, that's correct.
so the 3-bedroom affordable will have to pay because there's only three bedrooms in the thing.
Right.
They're all for affordable, so they would have to pay for parking.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Just out of curiosity, because you mentioned, and you're right, Asbury parking's worse in the summer. There's no question about it. But this venue is not going to be a summer venue. This is going to be hopefully a 52-week venue.
That's correct.
So you said work together with the city as far as figuring out some type of parking. Do you guys have any ideas? Because we don't.
Well, we did the best we possibly can with the parking, but I mean, I think we're going to gain, and I remember this from the first development from our traffic engineer, I think we gained 10 on-street parking spaces with this style development. So we would get that. I don't know how else we would be able to work with the city.
Thank you for that, because I was going to ask you, do we lose any on-street
No,
parking?
you gain some.
We gain some
Yeah,
because
10 parking spaces. Curb cut.
Curb cuts
Yeah.
are so wide now they'll be reduced.
That's correct.
Thank you. That's a good point. Okay, and then the garage floors will be the first and second, or second and third floor. Will they be open vent or will they have an HVAC system?
Our plan right now is to have them open ventilation. So we're not going to mechanically ventilate them. We'll have enough area.
And again, these are more questions that are going to come up from the planning board
Yeah.
and down the road and everything, but since this
Yeah.
is the first meeting, like I said, like, oh, let me get kind of like a feeling for it now.
And we'll have a lot more time to prepare and be able to get you.
Right, and then I'll wait to go into the financials. If everything went semi-perfect,
Mhm.
semi-perfect, and you get planning board approval, what would your schedule be to start the project, finish the project, and would you run both projects parallel so they both finish at the same time, or which one would you finish first?
Very good question. Thank you for asking that. So the plan is the church will get done first. There's not a lot of work that has to be done for the church to be repurposed in this manner. If you notice from the renderings, we didn't really change much besides repurposing the pews, the tables, the chandelier, and there's some repairs that have to be done in the building, of course. But timeline for the church to get done, I think the church can get done in 3 to 4 months.
Oh, fantastic.
For the building portion of it, I think that's probably an 18 to 24 month project.
Okay, and then I know you sent us a lot of information. I deeply appreciate it through Beth and everything. So you, JLD, basically have built a lot of beautiful houses and everything, and you've built one commercial condominium building in Yonkers, New York. Yeah.
Right.
Could you just give us like the description of that building?
Yeah, I absolutely can, but I would have to bring up my partner, Ozzy Yassine. He's the CEO of Mountain View Developments. He handles construction management. Would you mind us bringing him up?
Yes,
He
sir.
can talk to you about construction.
Because that's the only one listed on your website. So yeah,
Sure,
we'd just like to know about it.
no problem.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just need anything in my address or anything like that? I can just start.
You don't have to be sworn in
No,
or anything.
Yeah, we've done a lot of projects, especially in the Bronx. I've done myself, even I met Joe, over 2,200 renovation HUD units, which is affordable units in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, Poughkeepsie, New York, Ithaca, New York. I've done over 2,200 units. And we've done one from the ground up on Boston Road in Bronx, in New York, which is about, I think it was about 38 units, affordable units with no parking. It was on-street parking. And that's pretty much it, but currently we're doing some work right
No
now.
problem. Like, if this was like
Bronx.
30 years ago and somebody asked how Canadian, what have you built? They say, well, this.
Yeah.
first project. So
No,
I have no problem, but.
no,
just
over
because
2,200 units were done.
But
and,
only
we're currently working on
Only one
800 units.
condominium commercial.
Yeah, but no, a lot of them are high rise. A lot of them are 22-story high.
None of them are listed on your websites. On
No,
JLD.
because it's a renovation. It's a different entity.
Okay.
It's a different entity,
Okay.
right?
Maybe you can give us that down the road also.
I'll give you that. No
Okay,
problem.
no problem. For now, that's all I have. Thank you.
No problem.
You want me to go?
Yep.
Are we both done, or do you want us to stay
No,
here?
stay.
Oh,
Stay
okay.
for So you talked about the event space and the coordination. So when you say that, what I hear you saying, and I want to make sure this is accurate, you're not going to have the theater company putting on a play and the restaurant in full force. You would sort of coordinate a little bit of that to make sure we don't have 400 people in that sort of small area. Is that what you're saying when you're
That's
talking
correct.
about it?
That's correct.
Okay. My second question is, and maybe you don't know this yet, but what is important to me is that it's either done simultaneously or the church is done first. Condos are not particularly interesting to me. This discussion is really for me about the church. So we would want to see substantial construction or rehab on the church while simultaneous or before you build the 90 condos, right?
Yeah, that's the
It would
plan.
somehow be together. That what we wouldn't want is the condos to be built and then the church sits.
The idea is to start both at the same time, but the church is going to take a lot less time to finish.
Right. Okay, so
And, yeah.
all right, so we're on the
But we
same
all gonna
page
start
on
at the
that.
same
We
time,
would
of
sort of
course.
work on those two things together.
Yes.
That's 2. 3, and this might be for our attorneys, and it might not be for you, but, and I'm saying this is somebody where there's always, I'm gonna call, I would use a different word, but I'll use a mess up factor in Asbury Park sometimes.
Okay.
So if for whatever reason the church didn't come to fruition, I think we can be clear, that's not gonna be your huge moneymaker, right, an artisan church. We would want, and maybe that's for our attorneys to figure out, but a penalty, a reverter clause or something to make sure that the church doesn't, and I know that's not your intent, I know, Joe, that's not your intent, but we would want some sort of guarantee that this church remains open to public use. And again, I'm just gonna speak for me, because the sacrifice for me is the high density for the church, right? So we would just have to figure that out.
There
And
would have to
then,
be provisions worked into the agreements
Like,
that will
yeah, yeah,
be forthcoming if the project proceeds. There'll be a redevelopment agreement, a pilot agreement. and-
yeah, some penalty or reverter or something if everything went wrong and the church didn't come to fruition, just putting in.
So we just want you to know that that's being contemplated and that would be
Yeah, of
something we're
course.
gonna have to address in the agreement.
Right.
100%.
Just remember, that's gonna be a problem for our financing.
Yeah,
Just
It's a topic that will engage in discussions when we get more into the weeds.
okay. And so, and then the last thing, since we brought up financing, is that, again, the catch for me, Joe, as you know, is this, I'm sick of Asbury losing beautiful buildings, obviously. So you would be looking for some sort of, I'm gonna call it a tax incentive to save the church, because the church is not your moneymaker, right?
That's
The
correct.
church is not gonna be your moneymaker.
That's correct.
Okay. That's it.
Hi, thank you for coming in this evening. So let's talk about the cafe. Is the cafe going to be a cafe or a restaurant? Is it a casual place where local residents will be walking in and out, or is it going to be a formal restaurant, sit down, make reservations?
I imagine it like Cameo. You know, I don't know if you've ever been to Cameo.
Oh,
It's like a restaurant kind of cafe, I guess you can call it. Breakfast cafe / restaurant. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that was kind of the vision for it.
It will be open to the public. Yes, it will be. Anybody just can. It's not only for the residents.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that what you were asking? Would it be open to the public or
Oh,
would
no,
it be like?
Yeah.
I'm assuming if it's there, it's going to be open. to the
Right.
public.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Okay, and this may seem like a silly question, but we've encountered it in the past. All the bedrooms are going to have windows and closets?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
I know. The amenity space on the ground floor, is that an amenity space or is it retail space?
Kind of going back and forth on that. Originally, it was going to be retail space, but you know, there's enough retail space in the church building where the people that live, the residents that live in the building next door could, you know, what are we going to put down there? Another cafe? Like there's already one inside the church. So maybe that space ends up being a gym that's open to the public and it's free to the residents. So it can kind of be a cross between amenity space and retail space.
Okay, and my last question is, can you just describe for us what you're intending for the roof of the apartment building?
Sure. Yeah. So, obviously a pool that's up there, barbecue space, some basic outdoor seating and some basic outdoor space. Some green space up there. That's pretty much it for the most part. Some cabanas up there. Yeah.
All right, Thank you.
No
And
problem.
maybe some mechanicals.
And somewhat,
And maybe some mechanicals because you don't know where you're putting the mechanical.
it's possible, yes. Yeah. I don't imagine mechanical will take up that much space though.
No, and
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to see them from the street anyway because.
that's correct.
It will be set in the back.
Out of sight.
We'll have, we'll have set in the back.
I have a few questions for you. In regards to the affordable units, there's 15 of them?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. And how many, 1, 2, 3 bedrooms again, please?
We could bring that back up on the screen. Otherwise, do we have the affordable count up on the screen? Sorry about that, Angela. Just give me 1 second.
Apologies, I don't have it spelled out on here, but the breakdown would be 15 units, 3 of the 1-bedroom units, 9 of the 2-bedroom units, and 3 of the 3-bedroom, all 3 of the 3-bedroom units. And that's the breakdown that's required by the state regulations.
Okay, thank you. And you don't have the size, the square footage of those units yet?
I think we do have some basic square footage, basic square footages up here, if I'm not mistaken.
We have some ranges shown. Not, as you have jogs in the building, not every unit's gonna be the same. The 1-bedroom units range from 750 to 950 square feet. The 2 bedrooms from 900 to just under 1,200. And then the 3 bedrooms are right around 1,150. They're a little bit smaller, but 3-bedroom units.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the pool, the barbecue area, all units, all residents will have access,
Yes.
Absolutely.
including the affordable?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere regarding where the organ is, you're going to have that, that's going to be reserved for music? or
Yeah, so that's
entertainment?
the other stage that we were talking about earlier. That's the third floor stage.
Okay.
So there's 2 stages on the main level. And the one stage is in front of the cafe, restaurant, as we call it, cafe. And the other stage is that third level where the organ used to be. That would be another performing arts stage.
Okay, and so let's say community members, they would have access to that if they wanted to, local band or something?
Yeah, that would be great. Like, something like Springwood Mondays. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I think Beth had questions.
Yeah, Beth has questions.
Okay, come on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I do have a couple follow-up questions for you guys.
Beth, just talk into the mic so we can get you on. Thank you.
There we go.
That's it.
Okay. Let's see. So we talked a little bit about affordable housing just a moment ago, and I think the answer to this is yes, but I just want to put a finer point on it. You said that you're going to comply with the bedroom distribution, and I just want to confirm the units will meet all of the applicable requirements, right? The 30-year controls, et cetera.
Well, you have, absolutely.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. And the 15 affordable units, it amounts to a set aside just shy of 17%, about 17%. And I just want to know if you guys considered increasing the set aside to 20%. And I just note for the public's reference that that's the typical affordable housing set aside that the city seeks in redevelopment projects.
We went through a lot of different back and forths on the economics of this development to try to make it as feasible as possible, working, of course, with Beneke Economics. And to answer your question, we did the best we can.
Thank you. And speaking of I think the financial aspects, I heard you guys say, and I think there was a question about this too, you're seeking a pilot and a RAB to help the project feasibility. But I just want to better understand, does that mean that there's going to be a reduction in tax revenue for the city that the city might receive under a typical pilot scenario because it's coupled with a RAB?
I'm not really sure. We could bring Bob up to answer these questions, but I just want to say that it'll obviously be significantly more than the city has ever gotten on this property.
Thank you. I think that we just want to better understand. A pilot is often talked about as additional revenue goes to the city. I mean, there are it also means that revenue is not given to the school district, but it's typically described as more revenue is provided to the city that might be received under a regular tax scenario. But I think here, by coupling it with a RAB, it has a different result. And so that's what I wanted to just make sure the council and the public had a little bit of information on.
Would you guys mind if we brought up Beneke Economics? I'm not really equipped to answer pilot
That's why I
questions
didn't
and RAB.
ask financial questions.
Yeah, no problem.
It was coming up.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm not asking for a pro forma description. I just want, no, I appreciate that. Just some basic information for the public.
No, we wanted to get through all the planning questions first and then now financial, so.
Okay.
And then anybody else you have.
All right, no problem.
Hello, everyone. Hello, City Council. My name is Bob Beneke, certified finance officer in the state of New Jersey. I've written 5 textbooks for Rutgers University. Those are my credentials. And on June 13th, I'll be teaching another seminar to the legal profession on payment in lieu of tax programs and redevelopment area
We
bonds.
accept you as a professional.
So payment in lieu of taxes are payments that are provided for new developments in lieu of regular taxes. A couple of things that people don't realize, and it may not be applicable here, is that the prior year's taxes never get reduced. I say never because there are 2 or 3 caveats in very, very difficult situations, but they're never reduced. So if you're paying $150,000 today, payment in lieu of tax program requires you to pay $150,000 at least forevermore. So you never lose taxes. Payment in lieu of tax program has statutory floors, and it has a statutory construct under long-term tax exemption law. It gets really difficult to navigate it sometimes. And then you have redevelopment area bonds. You also have redevelopment bonds now that are actually more popular in a way. And redevelopment area bonds is that any project that's designated in a redevelopment area and has a redevelopment plan, you can have a redevelopment area bond issued for any project costs. Doesn't matter what. It could be ceiling tiles, it could be a pool, it could be anything. And those redevelopment area bonds are paid for by the pilot. That's called a pledge. Pledge of the pilot to the redevelopment area bond on an annual basis. You can have non-recourse, which means it's not on the balance sheet of the city. It only is supported by the pilot. Or you can have recourse bonds, which are supported by the pilot, but they're also on the balance sheet of the city. So here what we're proposing is a $45 to $50 million project, of which we're going to, quote unquote, save the church, for lack of a better word, or there may be a better word than that, preserve it, historically preserve it. That's going to cost about $3.5 million. We're going to provide for the extra parking deck level, and it's subterranean, so it's difficult to build. That's going to cost about another $3.5 million. We're going to provide 15 affordable housing units. The difference between a market rate unit and an affordable housing unit is quite great in terms of value. We lose about $140,000 at least in value per unit. It's $2.1 million. And then we have a unique circumstance with the
$140,000 over what? The course of the...
Initially, just like that. As soon as you build it, you CO it, you want to go to sell it, your costs are about $450,000. You get maybe $300,000 for the unit, for affordable housing unit. So you're building something for $500,000 that really you can only sell for $300,000.
Okay, but what do you lose over the course of 20 or 30 years?
You lose a multiple of that, about 2.5 times that on a cash flow basis.
Okay.
So then we get into the issue of the church has a unique circumstance with the elevators and ADA. That's about another $400,000 of difficult management, if you will, of the exterior and interior of the building. So if you add those 4 buckets up, you get $3.5 million, another $3.5 million, $2.1 million, and then approximately $400,000. That comes out to a package of about $9 million. So in our $50 million budget, we have $9 million to quote unquote preserve the church and provide the affordable housing and do everything in the right way, including the affordable housing units. So what we're looking for is, instead of having regular taxes on the increased investment in the city, that we would have a payment in lieu of tax program. included in the payment in lieu of tax program are credits of approximately $5.1 million against the $9 million increase, so that we have public support, if you will, through the pilot over time for the $5.1 million. That's what we're asking for. So we're going to invest 50. We need $5 million approximately from the city to make the financials work, and we could do that all through the payment in lieu of tax program.
Beth, what was your question exactly?
Thank you very much. That was a lot of information. I think that what you're basically saying is that the $5 million that the project requires from the city to make a project work will ultimately come from the pilot payments.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
That's essentially
The pilot or the RAP?
It's through the pilot, and the way we structured it is the redevelopment area bond would be approximately half that, $2.6 million. The other half of the $5 million would be advance payment of the pilot, which we would get credited back. We get credit back over a 20-year period, no interest. So we put the money up front, you get the pilot money, and we take a credit for the upfront cost of the $2.5 million extra. So we split it in half redevelopment area bond and half credits to the pilot. And whatever's left over, the city retains and gets.
Okay. What would the rents be for the apartments?
The average rent, including the parking for the market, would be approximately $3,500. The average rent for the affordables would be approximately $900, a little bit more.
$3,500 for a 1 or 2 or 3 bedroom?
That's blended together. I have the schedule, but it's blended.
Okay.
I think it's about $3 or $3.50 a square foot.
It's $3.50. It's $40.50 a square foot over the course of a year.
And what is the affordable?
The affordable is about $910, perhaps a little bit more.
910.
Yeah, on a blended basis. In other words, if you look at all the apartments, all the household sizes, and shake it all together, it's about $110. I'm sorry, $910.
You're saying the median numbers, $900.
So,
Average numbers, yeah.
I'm going to say it's above my pay grade as far as you're a professional. Have you crunched the numbers yet and figured out okay, you don't have to answer, if you got the pilot and you got the RAB, right now the city's getting $25,000 a year in taxes the way it sits. What would we get if you did this? Would we get $200,000 a year?
No,
Would we get $100,000 a year?
probably not.
What would we get?
Without getting into details, this was tax exempt property, so you essentially got nothing.
But now we're getting 25.
As long as it's not appealed and as long as that's in place, let's assume it is $25,000. You get probably $40,000 to $75,000 net. However, over time, as rents grow and as the credits fall off, that moves up to $650,000 and $1 million. Now, it's a generation from now, no question. It's 15 to 20 years. But the investment in the city that you save the church, get those amenity spaces, you get the affordable housing, and you go from $75,000 to $675,000 over the course of maybe 15 to 20 years.
How long is the pilot?
The pilot's going to be 30 years. But the credits are 20 years, and the redevelopment area bond we have scheduled for 25, and we'll have the rents increasing, so you get the benefit of all that, and you get the benefit of rolling off of the subsidies. It's actually pretty straightforward, at least in my world.
But not anyone else. But all right. Well.
I mean, it's actually pretty straightforward. And if you think about it, 2 years ago, you're getting nothing. We preserved the church.
When you say getting nothing, you keep saying that, but we
It was tax exempt.
$25,000 a year.
It was
Just now.
just now. It was nothing. And,
Right, 'cause it was
and the reason you're getting,
Gotcha.
and I don't mean to interrupt you, but the reason you're getting something, and all these are great questions, is that Joe and Ozzy and Mountain View and the development company has invested in the property to go ahead and do something like this. So, they're vested into getting their return as well. And you're going to see everything. We'll show it to the redevelopment council. We'll show everything to Beth, whoever. It's going to be an open book. It's subject to audit. They're subject to a separate special purpose entity. And I'm not talking about a municipal audit. I'm talking about it's a true gap audit that's filed with the state. We have to do all of those steps that the public really doesn't understand sometimes, but it's a rigorous process we have to go through. And the local finance board will have to approve it as well.
Right.
So the heavy lift is the church. I mean, that's a fair statement financially.
Yeah, it's a fair
The heavy
statement.
lift is the church. So
Right.
as much, there is a sacrifice with saving this church that I just want people to be aware of. As
Yeah, I
somebody
think-
who wants to save the church, but there is a financial sacrifice to that.
And just like it's a long-term investment on our company to hold this building as a rental project, it's not going to make money right away. It's not going to make money in 5 years or whatever the case may be. We're hoping that rents will stabilize and interest rates will come down and we'll be in a better economic climate. It's definitely an investment for the city as well. It's a long-term investment for the city as well. So I don't know if that makes sense. I didn't speak like Bob did and, with that type of manner and, knowing that much, but it's definitely a long-term investment to be able to keep this building and turn this building into a performing arts center, community center.
And the higher the revenues go and the rents go, the more money the city gets. So.
Right, that's correct. The pilot, I'm sure you guys know this, the pilot says service charge off the rents of what the building gets. So right now it's $3 and $3.50 a square foot. In 10 years from now, it might be $4 a square foot or $4.50 a square foot. So the payment to the city also goes up as the rents go up and as the building makes more money. And again, for the church is not going to make money right now, but in 10 years from now, it's going to make money and the city will collect a lot more money on the proceeds from the church building. Right now, we can't charge, it has to be a very nominal rent right now to be able to get businesses to go in there and flourish and be able to be successful. But in 5 or 10 years from now, the hopes are that those businesses are successful and rents can go up and the building could be sustainable on its own and pay for itself. And during that time, when the building gets more money, then the city's going to get more money, just like the same thing with the apartment building next door.
And you envision, Joe, that a lot of these artisans would be local. This would be the desire would be to go as local as you can.
I do. I think that there's a lot of businesses in Asbury Park that, a lot of entrepreneurs in Asbury Park that have a great idea and, can't pay the $36 a square foot on Cookman Avenue. So they get a start. It's a lower entry, it's a lower barrier of entry for a lot of businesses.
Anybody else have any questions?
No, I want to thank you guys. I know this is going back and forth. Oh, sorry.
Maybe just 2 more questions. Do you guys have you given any consideration to green or sustainability features in the building?
We have not yet because we haven't got to engineering. We're just doing our architecturals right now, but that'll definitely be thought about and that's definitely something to
Something you'd consider? Okay. And then I just want to make sure I heard the parking numbers right. I have some conflicting notes. So I think I heard 150 seats for the basement theater, correct, for the Asbury Theater Company. On the main floor, there are 214 seats, and that includes the restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's additionally 50 people or so that might occupy the office spaces in the basement as well.
That's good.
And those offices, are those going to be limited to workspaces for other tenants of the building, like the artists, or is that open office opportunities? But might it be for a small firm as well, like a lawyer?
It could be for
somebody?
a small firm, but it could also be for the tenants upstairs that need additional
So it's open.
space or admin space.
Okay.
And from some of the people that we've spoken to in the local community that have space in Asbury Park, I'll show them the building, the main level of the building, and they're like, "Yeah, this is beautiful, but I need a film room downstairs, or I need we need a conference room, or we need a place that we could have meetings." So the conference room on the lower level is open to everybody in the church, where people could schedule out the time that they're using for the conference space. But beyond that, for the other businesses that are upstairs, they might need, administrative space and might take small office space downstairs. That's very possible, and I think that's going to happen with a lot of the tenants.
Okay. And then the last question I had, just to make sure I've got the correct notes on the parking. You said for the 64 spaces that are allocated to the residential uses, each of the 2 and 3 bedroom units will receive 1 parking space reserved for free. right? And then the remaining spaces will be allocated at a lottery for cost for the residential units.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and then the 55 spaces on the first floor of the parking deck, that's intended to serve all of the demand generated by the church, by the Sacred Stage
So the way
building.
we have it scheduled right now is there's a parking deck for, one parking deck goes directly for the church and the other parking deck is for the apartment building.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
And we should also keep in mind that that parking deck that's for the church building, I can't imagine that being filled all the time. I understand probably on the weekends, Fridays and Saturdays, it, might be filled up, but I think in my opinion, there's going to be a lot of empty parking spaces on that parking deck that's specific for the church building.
Then that opens up another question. And ballpark. You got a restaurant, so you need a chef, you need a couple waitresses,
Yeah.
you need this. You've got the offices, say you're only 50% lease them out. On an average day with nothing going on, how many people are going to be in the church? Ballpark.
You're saying just employees?
Yeah, employees that need parking. So let's say we presume they need parking. They may ride a bicycle, they may live next door.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so.
I don't know about that many. You're saying just employees though, not people that rent out the office
employees,
space?
but also, no, if I'm like, the theater company, I'm down there rehearsing. I don't know how to phrase it. I mean, like, right, there's no event going on, but how
I
many
imagine the
people-
cafe probably having 3 or 4 employees. I mean, it's seating capacity wise, it's a smaller cafe, right? 15 parking spaces.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice
I would say
ballpark.
15, yeah. Yeah, if I had to guess, it would be 15.
And if the council would like, maybe a parking, if the council wants to proceed with this, maybe a shared parking study might be helpful to try to understand the parking demand from the various uses.
I'm not so sure I followed you, John.
It's a study that would identify the various uses in the church as well as the residential building and identify the parking demand generated by each one so that the council can better understand the parking impact to the extent that the garage is going to fill that parking demand that's going to be created by the site.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you.
And again, I'm not trying to make this negative whatsoever. I was going to start off by saying, you guys are hitting the trifecta, but you've gone up since the trifecta. I mean, of all the projects presented to us, this would be substantially the most dense. This would be substantially the one with the least amount of parking. And then you're asking for a pilot, but now a RAB with the pilot, and you're telling me we may get $45,000 a year when on a similar project down the street, we're getting $200,000 a year. So, I mean, so the taxpayers are basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, footing the bill for the church.
We don't know if that $45,000 number is correct. We haven't got
I
to
didn't
that
say
point.
it. I didn't use it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just saying.
Financial expert didn't.
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you that we don't know what that number is. We haven't gotten that far with the pro forma. We understand that the project needs a pilot and it needs a RAB. It needs a redevelopment area bond and it needs a payment in lieu of taxes. The redevelopment area.
Pilot, I don't think is a problem. I have no problem with the pilot.
Okay.
I mean, the pilot is a problem. It's a RAB that we've never done before. You're the first one to ask for a RAB.
Right.
So it's new to me. It's new to everybody. So it's something we guys like wrap my arms around. And I'm sure like with your help and with our financial people's help, we'll get there and figure it out. But I mean, it can't be like, it's got to be something like, works for the city also.
Mayor Moore, let me just explain. For the redevelopment area bond, it's a payment that comes off the service charge that let's say is amortized over 20 or 25 years. It's essentially for the second parking deck that's in there, plus the ADA elevator and the amount of money that we have to put into the church building. We're paying for that up front. We're amortizing that over 20 years where the city, let's say, off of their payment in lieu of taxes, pays a small percentage of that over 20 years. Because obviously the city's not going to pay us $600,000 or $1 million or whatever it's going to cost to do certain things on the building. So basically what we're saying back to you is we're essentially financing it for you. We're saying that we're going to include this into our 90-unit building and our construction budget of our 90-unit building, take that money off of our construction budget, which is going to have to be obviously paid back when everything stabilizes with our debt, our debt collector or whatever, our bank. But that comes off the pilot service charge over the time of 20 or 25 years. And, I don't know if that answers it any better, but, I don't know how that, hurts the taxpayers in the city, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's just
how.
sometimes when you see it in black and white, you understand it better than a conversation.
Sure,
So
but
it's a conversation that we're open to continuing.
Sure. Keep in mind, as Joe said, in a very, very nice way, is that the taxpayers aren't going to have to pay anything more than today. They're not going to pay any more. They're going to get more money. They're not going to pay anything less.
You can say that all night, but for some reason, it just goes in one ear and out the other. And that's my problem. And
No,
just
no,
because,
it's not a problem.
We have the same, I'll leave it at that. We have the same project down the street that's paying us a pilot and paying us $200,000 for like less
Right.
density, more parking and everything.
But they're not preserving a church. They're not building an extra
I agree
parking
with
there.
you. So that's why we got to figure out the financials.
Fair.
And again, this is just the initial meeting.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that it happened. I think you guys did a good presentation.
Well, thank you guys for having us here and
You
letting
heard
us
our
present.
feedback, and you're going to start to hear the citizens' feedback, which is the most important thing. I'm just going to say once again, for everybody in the public, if you want to talk, you go up to the microphone, you get 3 minutes, you can ask any question, anything. If you have multiple questions, ask them all, because when they answer, when your 3 minutes is up, your 3 minutes is up, because we have quite a large crowd. So, and they will stay and answer the questions. And again, appreciate it, and thank you very much.
And if you think of a question tomorrow, you'll email us and we'll get you an answer. So if you don't get your question in tonight, it's not like this is the only night you can ever ask a question about this pilot or about this project.
Right, and anybody on APTV can
And
send
I
them in
could
also.
offer my email address as well to the public as well.
Yeah, whatever you want, yep.
You gotta go to the mic, Tommy.
Well, I don't want my 3 minutes to start because it's about that. Isn't the question and answer period supposed to be separate from the 3-minute commentary period at the end?
We haven't done that before.
Okay, because that's usually the case, is that you're supposed to give the public the right to first cross-examine them and no statements, and then the statements given at the end of the 3-minute. You're not doing that?
Is that a council meeting or a
That's
planning
a
board
planning
meeting?
board and zoning meetings.
Yeah, we've never done that before with any other developers.
Why don't you do it tonight? Because
I would hate to start that with this project,
Okay.
just because we've been consistent with each project, so we're going to stay consistent. Okay. You ready?
Yeah, we have matters from council first.
Oh, nobody has it. Okay.
Matters from city council, Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Just wanted to say good evening and, just remember to love yourself. If you didn't get anything for Valentine's Day, give yourself a hug and a squeeze and happy Valentine's.
Thank you, Angela. Councilmember Clayton.
I just want to let residents know that there is going to be a construction job fair. There are a number of jobs available. It's going to be on Saturday, February 24th, between the hours of 1 and 3 at Interfaith Neighbors, and that's at 1201 Springwood Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
I'm just gonna piggyback on what John said earlier. Asbury lost a real LGBTQ icon, Carol Torre, who had clubs in Asbury Park, resident of decades. Our hearts go out to her wife, Mickey, and just want to say how sorry we are to lose Carol.
Thank you. Mayor Moore.
I'll piggyback on that. I wish Carol Torrey was here tonight, because in the 1980s and 90s, when the city's lawyer was Ann Barbino, and she would say something, Carol Torrey would say no, but I'd look at anything, you're wrong on page 132, subsection JC. Here's what it says. She knew the redevelopment plan better than the city's redevelopment attorney, and she was a complete asset to the city. She served, I think, 13 years on the housing authority, and just a very nice person. Was a trendsetter for the country, if not the state. So again, our wishes go out to Mickey and the rest of the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Matters from the city manager.
Yes, thank you. Pleased to announce that the city is receiving a New Jersey's Leading Capital Construction Projects Award from New Jersey Alliance for Action. This award was created to highlight innovative, pioneering, and landmark construction initiatives in the city, and it will greatly impact the state's economy and to honor the businesses and organizations that work together to ensure the project's success.
Thank you. Matters from the city attorney.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. We're now on to public participation. May I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
Move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public participation portion is now open. Any member of the public who wishes to speak, please use the microphone, state your name and address for the record. There will be a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Bob Stevens, 704 2nd Avenue. Appreciate the fact that the mayor and council has addressed a lot of the issues that we're all already concerned with, and we appreciate that. However, living directly across the street from the major residential building and the access, I guess, is driveway parking, the main concern is the parking, and that's already been addressed on several elements here. We've already got limited parking, and there is absolutely no activity at that property currently. We will now have a mini complex, really. And thank you, Mayor, for addressing that, getting an estimate or guesstimate of how many individuals would be occupying the buildings in any given day and or night now. I noticed the picture also indicating that you've got a rock band or drums or something. We already experienced that from the corner, La Coronita. I don't know if that's actually permitted for them, but they have a dance club there, and the bass goes through the walls. You can't stop the bass from going through the walls. We're already looking at a possibility of having a band and activity on a nightly basis or weekends or whatever it may be. Aside from the fact that you're going to have an overwhelming amount of people parking, off-street parking, it's already difficult for people that live there. And we're talking about the 700 block right across the street from this whole complex, directly across the street. That is an issue. And what businesses will be in there, that's the question. Could be anything. I've heard restaurant, I've heard cafe. Well, when you have restaurant, we've already got one at the Coronita on weekends. Given weekends, noise any old time of day you want. It goes right up through 2:30 in the morning on the weekends. It's another area to be addressed, but currently I can see this turning into a complex with a lot more traffic. Whether that justifies how many spots you have off-street parking, me personally, I'm not a professional in that area. I don't see it happening. And it's already going to be congested with the current residents that do live there, and with the activity as well. That's my question. What effect can that have? I know it's a long question, and you can't answer that now, but that's just something that I think needs to be directed, and that's an immediate problem, would be the parking. I know there's a compromise. I know it's money. I know it's an investment. You're out to make money. Of course, the city needs to have that justified. It's a back and forth. I understand compromise. It has to be that way. But bottom line is, yeah, we're going to hear the noise, and yeah, we're going to pick up the tab. I thank you.
Okay, thank you for your statement. Thank you.
Statement.
Thomas DeSeno, 3600 Route 36 in Neptune. I'd like to know if the developer's real estate agent was telling the truth when she gave a TV interview and said the following.
According to Elizabeth Spurrier, the real estate agent in charge of selling Holy Spirit, the church was purchased by JLD Investment Group. She stressed that the buyer signed a contract that will prevent them from tearing Holy Spirit down.
So the first question is, was she telling the truth when she said there's a contract when they bought the property that they could never tear that building down? Secondly, will the city council, to finally settle that issue, demand to see a certified copy of the contract, because you need to know what's going to happen to this property if this doesn't go through. because according to their realtor, they could never remove that building. So that's important for you to know. I'd like everyone to stop falling for the term, we're going to save the church. Okay, the church is gone. Our awful bishop deconsecrated it. That's emotional propaganda. They're just trying to get people who are only paying half attention to go, yeah, save the church. That's what we want. And then not listen to the rest of what they're saying. Stop saying save the church. That's not happening. The two plans are either to knock the old church building down or gut it. Nobody's saving the church. On the issue of whether they would ever knock it down, I want to bring up some financial matters because they're asking with the pilot for the taxpayers to be their business partner, and with the RAB, they're asking to use your credit and get a loan from you instead of a bank. So their finances are important. They purchased this property for $1.7 million. They took a mortgage, it's on file with the county, for $1.7 million. They put zero of their own liquidity in. What does that tell you? They're not confident enough in this project to use their own liquidity. They're using yours and the taxpayers with a pilot and the bonding issue. Please don't fall for that. Don't make these people their business partners. If they think it can work, let them use their own money.
No cross conversation.
Let them use their own money. Also, if you go on the state's court's website, you're going to find they're being sued in 3 counties, 4 lawsuits for things like not paying workers and not paying for materials. The reason why that's important, to do the RAB, they have to actually be a guarantor of the payment. Why would you allow any deal where the city has to bond with taxpayer credit, taxpayer fund, using them as a guarantor when they're not even paying carpenters, drywall hangers in 3 different counties that they're currently being sued on? So I'm asking you, please, don't fall for it. They're not using their own liquidity. You don't want the taxpayer to be their partner. And I believe a lot of you campaign against pilots because they do hurt the taxpayer. And I can explain why if I get another 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you want to
Was
answer.
that a question or a statement?
It was both. The first question was when he played the tape. If you want to answer it, fine. If you don't want to answer it, the answer from the city is like, first time we're hearing about it, we ask our lawyers to look into it, but I can't answer it now. So Fred, who would look into that? You or Eric?
We will both look into it, Eric
Okay.
Newman and I, as the
And if you want
attorneys.
to answer, fine. If you don't want to.
I mean, we
So
have
you're
the realtor
responsible for this.
here that he was saying that was talking on the phone, so she could come up and speak if you guys would like. But
No, let her go to the microphone. Can't believe nobody else wants to speak.
was there another
Okay.
question?
What is it?
Hi. Carrie Turner, 514 7th Avenue, Asbury Park. Also the Executive Director of the Asbury Park Arts Council. Tonight I'm here representing the APAC Board because we did discuss this last night at our meeting. In fairness, Mr. Hanna's assistant reached out to me last week, which was the first interaction that we've had. We reviewed the project overview memo that was submitted a few weeks ago and also the plans. We had some initial reactions. I would say the APAC is actually very interested in the church being reused as an arts and culture center, but as we've heard tonight, this is really complex and not very straightforward. So one thing, I'm going to run through them quickly as the mayor asked. I think the public would benefit from knowing what happens after tonight in terms of steps and opportunities for more public interaction. That's one thing. Several of our immediate questions was how much of the pro forma is dependent on the income of the arts uses in the church, because we know it's kind of a loser, as we've talked about. And Amy hit on a lot of the things that we're concerned with, which is what are the guarantees that the church arts center arts use stays that way, and whether it's in perpetuity or for a period of time that runs with the pilot. You answered what phase of construction it's going to come in. We'd like to know what existing arts center models you looked at for the uses that you put in there. I think Beth hit it when she talked about modeling the intensity of those uses. I wanted to know if you'd reviewed the recently adopted arts and culture plan that the city passed. There's some really good information in there that could help inform some of the uses. Another one, is one operator going to be considered for all of those uses? You're going to have a master tenant that's going to lease those things. and sort of make sure that everything gets, I guess, managed the way you were talking about. It sounded to me like there could be 400 people in the building at one time, if not managed properly, with 66 structured parking spaces potentially. So I think that's forthcoming is what it sounds like. Wanted to know if you had any prospective tenants lined up. I'm excited if it is in fact you've gained traction with some of that. That would be very interesting for us to know. Wanted to know if you'd considered partnering with any groups that are serving youth and seniors, because that is something that came out of the Arts and Culture Plan, is that having those types of activities for those specific groups is something that's very important. Your drawing showed a potential bar. I wanted to know what your ability to get a liquor license would be. And you talked about parking for the events. Is that going to be contemplated to be paid parking, free parking? How much of it will be free when it's being used by the community versus perhaps a paid event? And then on the artisan space specifically.
You can
I'll let you know.
You can finish the sentence.
Okay. The artisan spaces, that looked like there were either 10 or 12 that were open. And so it's a difficult model. I don't understand how an artist is going to come there and work and sell if they can't lock up their space. So it's an open space. It's more questions about how that first floor gets managed, because it sounds good, but I don't know how practical it is. And so it's more, how does that work? And that goes back to...
Okay, that's a long sentence.
I know. Sorry. You're done.
Thank you, Carrie. Do you want to answer the question?
I could definitely answer some of them, but I kind of lost track after
I was
the
going to
fourth one.
say, answer what you can, and then Carrie, why don't you send us the list, and then we'll forward it along, because it was a lot of questions, yeah.
Carrie, I can also give you my email address, and I can answer those questions for you.
Okay. That'll work.
Okay.
That's why I make notes, because I forget the questions.
Right. I should have brought my system.
Mine is more of a comment. Is that okay? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me here this evening. My name is Brian O'Brien. I live at 1615 Park Avenue here in Asbury Park. I was born and raised in Monmouth Beach, New Jersey, and I'm a professional actor. And I have gained from the arts that is provided to us here in our community. And I'm also a board member of the Asbury Park Theater Company. And we find it to be very important that this opportunity may befall us, that we have a home, a space that we can use. And we spoke about youth. One of the great aspects of the Asbury Park Theater Company is our youth development programs, in which we have a School of Dramatic Arts, where we bring students from all around the county, but most importantly, Asbury Park, to be a part of our summer programs. And the information that they learn and gain and the confidence that they gain. Public speaking is one of the most challenging things to do. Even as a professional actor, I've had the good grace of working on Broadway for the past 27 years in 6 productions. And coming back here to Asbury Park to give back to our community is really important to me. So to have a development like this in our home, and possibly a home space for our theater company, is really, really important to us. And also adding an arts hub to the center of Asbury Park. We did speak about Cookman and the waterfront redevelopment, but it's also exciting to see something to bring people arts. Galleries are all around the city, but to really bring it into the heart of the city, Second and Main, is a really important thing. We're a nonprofit organization, so we are able to raise money that will help partner with the city to do some, outreach programs to the youth and to the community and enhance what is already being done in the arts here in Asbury Park. So we really do stand behind this. It is exciting. We are looking forward to working with the other artists. I know that it's the Music Foundation also, I think, is excited about this project as well. So I just think it's important for us to come together, and most importantly, to save the structure. I know that we are respectfully still calling it a church, but I hope that it stays and blesses us in perpetuity, as you had said. So thank you again for your evening and your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Next.
Jessica Rojas, 512 2nd Ave, Asbury Park. So I guess some of my questions was you might have touched Brian on it, but me personally, I do have 3 questions, but I did grow up in Asbury Park and I attended Holy Spirit Church. So I was there through the whole development of the basement, the mass and everything, as some of you are here. So the plan of being a bar, and I like the arts and everything. However, it just doesn't feel right in my heart. So I think you might have asked you might have answered this question, but My question is, you said to the public, what kind of audience are you targeting? As a parent, can schools/kids are able to use the space freely? I am an educator and work with children, and the kids and families need a good guidance and support in this community. And the place and the community needs that. So we need to uplift this community as working together, because I am looking for ways that we can do that, and I will support that. So I get it, it's all business. I have that mindset, but again, I work with children, I work with them. This community is not just one race, it's a lot. So I've been here when Asbury Park was nothing. It was literally nothing. So I like that we are uplifting the community. I like that we're doing this. However, feel like sometimes, and it's my opinion, that this is just like business, not just the community. So again, I feel like as even having that power that you have, and hopefully me one day I'm there, but having that power that you have is that, again, just be there, show up to the school, show up to help and lend hand in need to these families, because again, they need a good guidance. And you're a mom, you're all parents here. We need a good guidance in our kids. And again, it's the mindset. So I would just say that if you're going to, again, I'm not sure about this idea. I don't like it in the first place, but can schools, again, we need to look at the education side as well with the children, because they are the future and we are adults, and we have to have that, and we have to have them in mind. So that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing nobody, I'll make a motion to close.
Move to close.
Surprised.
All in favor? Surprise too. Now or never, folks. I have a motion. Damn it.
Too late.
Move to close.
Second.
I just have a quick question, I think, for the good of the discussion. Dan
Can you just state your name and address for the record, sir?
Asbury Park.
Okay.
This project was on track after, planning board denial and litigation by the developer, and it got to the point where I think a demolition permit was either applied for or taken out. So it appeared to be a situation where the developer, if they wanted to, could go forward and demolish the building after the litigation, after getting the permit, assuming there's not a contractual provision that Tommy brings up that prevents them from doing so. I'd be shocked, because they certainly took a lot of action that didn't seem like they were restricted in that regard. Anyway, my question for the good of the discussion is, we're talking about the church, not doing the church. Could the developer tell us right now what they can build about these 6-family homes, about how big they are, what would happen to the site, the number of bedrooms? Because there is something that will happen if this project isn't approved. And maybe the project won't be approved for good reasons. I mean, there could be good reasons. You may not be able to come to an agreement on financials, may not be able to come to an agreement on parking. Obviously, a lot of people, myself including, want to see the church structure preserved. We know the church is gone, but the structure itself preserved, and have a creative use like this. But, it's not like we're operating in a vacuum here. If these discussions fail, hopefully they won't, but if they have to fail, I think it would be nice for the discussion to hear what happens next with these 6 single-family homes and some details about them.
Including the revenue.
Sure. Yeah. Do you want me to talk about the 6 single-family houses?
Sure.
There's 6-bedroom, 7-bathroom houses. The R1 zone gives the R1 zone gives a pretty generous building envelope on there, so there's not, we haven't went through the height, but I think the height restriction is very generous on them. They're large 6-bedroom, 7-bathroom homes. 6-bedroom, 7-bathroom homes is what they were scheduled for, yeah. Yeah, they're pretty big homes.
Driveways.
Yeah, of course, driveway, front loading garages. We conform to the R1 zone completely.
And you would arguably not need a pilot for that.
That's correct.
Right.
But I also, if we're going to bring that up and we're talking about financials, what these 6 single-family houses, the tax revenue that these 6 single-family houses would bring to the city would still be less than repurposing the church.
I don't know if that's true. We're hearing about the RAB and $45,000.
Well, we don't know exactly what that is, but
Okay, so-
I don't know about that $45,000 right now. The last time, before the RAB, before adding the parking deck, it was significantly more money than that. It was the second parking deck that really added the RAB onto it that brought it down significantly. Before that, it was around $160,000 as opposed to $70,000. So it was double what the 6 single-family houses brought.
Trying to do quick math, and I won't do it.
I think people need to keep, right? There's gives and takes either way. Do you want 6 houses with driveways that look like they could be on Route 9? I don't know. Maybe people do. Do you want to save a historic structure? I don't know. Maybe people do. Do you want 90 condos? I don't know. Maybe people do. But the fact is there's going to be gives, right? If you get the house, there's no pilot, right? We get 6 townhouses that look like, I'm sure, any other townhouse in Asbury Park. If you want to save the structure of the church, well, then there's going to be a pilot, and there's probably going to be some parking issues. But people need to think about this holistically. And where do you want to live in 10 years? Do you want to live next to 6 family houses, or do you want to live next to a historic structure?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess
And the flip side to that is, if Mr. DeSano is correct and our lawyers check.
Guys, let me just say, Mr. Sano is completely incorrect. The guy's a liar. And he was already brought by Judge Thornton and said that he was a liar, and he had an ethics complaint against him. Everything that he says is a lie. You're more than welcome to check his stuff. You're going to find out the guy's lying.
Okay, no problem. But so
just so we can
when he
move on
asked
from
the
that.
question, you didn't answer, so you're saying
It was more of a statement, not a question.
he asked, did the deed have a restriction that
It does not. Let me clearly say that right now. It
Okay,
does
so you're on
not. The
record.
realtor, I don't know
Okay.
why the realtor said that at some point, but you could bring her up if she'd like. There is no restrictions on demolishing that building. We would have had a problem pulling the demo permit and getting it approved if that was the case.
Okay.
So
No
we
problem.
wouldn't close on the property.
It was
if we had a
unanswered
restriction like
until
that.
right now.
Excuse me?
It was unanswered before, and now it's answered.
Right,
Thank
correct.
Are we able to see that?
Of course you can. Yeah, of course you can.
So could you?
Public record.
The deed is a public record. And by the way, we own the property outright, and the lender on the property is me, so.
The contract, not the deed.
Okay.
Contract.
We've been fairly good so far. So seeing nobody else at the microphone, I'm going to make a motion to close. Here we go. No, you're no problem. I apologize.
It's okay. Hi, my name is Robin Meddy. I have an apartment on 8th Avenue. We have a business that we opened up in 2020 during COVID that
What's
many
your address?
businesses were going under, and we are doing well.
And your address?
8th Avenue, 303 5th Avenue, apartment 5.
Thank you.
I also live in Howell too, so I have 2 residencies. So anyways, been here a long time, met my husband 41 years ago in Stone Pony and loved this place. And yes, I was at the 50th. I'm very proud of that. I just want to thank the developers for at least coming up with something versus destroying the historical Holy Spirit Church. I don't know many developers that can come to a town and do such things, but I know there's a few other ones that have preserved Asbury Park. I think it's in the heart of many people to preserve and to help the community on whatever side you live on. It's very important for me as a business owner that we reach out and we come to an agreement to help. Parking's going to be an issue over there. It was for the church. It will be for everybody. So you have to work around those things. There's a community that lives there. They may not want a bar. They may not want that drama that goes around with it. Come to Cookman. We can show you the livelihood of that. So those things you need to consider. But the most important thing is preserving our history. The only idea that I would have for this board or anybody, if they're planning this stuff, when these events come into the city, see here now, whatever else, put a $5 fee on that ticket and put it towards something like a preservation act that we can save the community, like the Paramount Theater, like Convention Hall. Hello, in the 70s, we had concerts here. Look at the history, follow it. Don't repeat bad mistakes. And I'm very thankful for people that will stand up and do the right thing so the church will stand.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Motion to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public participation portion is now closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a 2-minute break so everybody who wants to leave can leave and we can conduct our business. So if you're not staying, take it outside.
If you're not staying for the rest of the meeting, please take your conversations outside. We still have the rest of the meeting to conduct.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have at least another hour of business we have to do. So if you're going to leave, please take your conversations outside so we can take care of city business. Thank you. Who? Yeah. No, but tell her to stop talking and take the shit outside.
Yeah. Beth, you're good to go. If you guys want to talk outside, that'd be great.
Succeed. She tells me during meetings.
Everyone, please take your conversations outside. We still have the rest of the meeting to conduct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait for Amy to get back and you can start. You can start it anyway. We don't need our own minutes and everything.
She's back.
We're on to the minutes. I have the executive meeting minutes and regular meeting minutes of the January 31st, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
We're now on to consent agenda resolutions. All matters listed on the consent agenda are presented collectively to the City Council and will be considered for approval with one vote. These matters are considered to be routine in nature and there will be no individual discussion on these items. If discussion is desired by one or more council members as to any particular item, then said item shall be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. On consent agenda, we have resolutions 2024-105 through 2024-109.
Well, Rita got her seat back, so all is right now.
Do I have a motion on consent?
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
We're now on to individual resolutions. Resolution 2024-110, resolution approving payment of bills.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-92. This is a resolution authorizing a professional services contract to Hackensack Meridian Team Health PC for employment exams and physicals. This was the tabled resolution.
Yes.
Does anyone want to make a motion to further table?
Make a
Table,
motion.
I wasn't listening, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
can I have a second to table?
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Table. Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
This resolution has been tabled to the February 28th, 2024 meeting. Resolution 2024-111, a resolution authorizing the purchase of rock salt as needed for the 2024 winter season.
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-112, resolution authorizing purchase of ammunition for the police department.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-113, resolution approving change order number 2 for Memorial Drive sanitary sewer improvements.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-114, resolution authorizing the renewal of various storage units with Life Storage.
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-115, resolution awarding a contract to Monmouth Telecom for telephone and internet service.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-116, resolution authorizing a contract for real property data collection and verification services.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-117, resolution authorizing a new heating and cooling unit needed at the Transportation and Social Services Building.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-118, resolution authorizing payment to Community Affairs Resource Center for a public facility upgrade through Community Development Block Grant CDBG funding.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-119 has been removed from tonight's agenda. We'll move on to 2024-120. Resolution appointing the firm of Community Grants, Planning, and Housing to serve as Housing Rehabilitation Program Administrator and authorizing the execution of an agreement for professional services associated therewith.
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
When this was discussed at the agenda meeting, we were told it wouldn't exceed 17.5. It does exceed 17.5. Did we ever get a number what this is going to cost per year? Or is it dependent on how many inspections they do?
So this is a separate contract, right? So we had the administrative grant agent at the reorg. This is for, this establishes the schedule of fees.
So it's actually our own table of fees. Right here, Michelle.
Here, this one.
It's got a schedule of fees. Housing rehabilitation.
But how many?
It's a monthly flat fee of $90 per month for a total of $11,400 per contract year. And that's for day-to-day administration. There would be other fees for any additional services.
And does anybody know what those additional services would cost in ballpark
No,
a year? I mean, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000?
no, I don't believe it's a lot. It would be things that we would need them to do that, like, they just recently gave us a manual. But as you know, this is for this is administrative for our housing rehabilitation program.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-121, resolution appointing the firm of Merzidi and Falcon LLP to serve as special conflict counsel to obtain an easement with New Jersey Transit for the Asbury Park new fire department headquarters and authorizing the execution of an agreement for professional legal services associated therewith.
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-122, resolution authorizing a professional services contract with T&M Associates for professional environmental engineering services.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-123, resolution authorizing award to Monmouth County SPCA for animal control services.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-124, resolution awarding a bid for intersection improvements at Bangs Avenue and Prospect Avenue.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember.
Question, and just to remind everybody, this is one of the busiest intersections in the city with the school, so we're going to try to do the majority of the work during the summer months, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll call. Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-125, resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Asbury Park referring proposed amendments to the Main Street redevelopment plan to the city of Asbury Park Planning Board and directing the planning board to take certain actions pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-7E.
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-126, resolution authorizing the city of Asbury Park to execute a license agreement to permit a limited encroachment into the right-of-way area adjacent to the property located at 615 6th Avenue, Block 3007, Lot 19, relating to a brick retaining wall situated along 6th Avenue, corner of Bond Street and 6th Avenue in Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-127, a resolution authorizing the City of Asbury Park to execute a license agreement for encroachment into an area of the city right-of-way adjacent to the property located at 550 Cookman Avenue, Block 3105, Lot 4.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez
Yes.
Anderson. Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-128, resolution of the City of Asbury Park referring the proposed redevelopment plan for 1201 Memorial Drive, City of Asbury Park, Monmouth County, Block 203, Lot 5, dated February 5th, 2024, in accordance with the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 40A:12A. Do I have a motion?
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-129, resolution supporting Monmouth County's federal funding application under the U.S. Department of Transportation's fiscal year 2024 RAISE grant for improvements along Asbury Avenue between State Highway 35 and Ocean Avenue North in townships of Neptune and Ocean in the city of Asbury Park.
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez
Yes.
Anderson. Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes, and there's a meeting tomorrow at this building right here, Council Chambers, from 4:30 to 7, dealing with Asbury Avenue from the Neptune border to Ocean Avenue. So if anybody wants to attend that, it's tomorrow, Thursday, here at the Council Chambers.
And is it charrettes, James, or is it like a presentation?
It's public comments where we will accept everyone's ideas and concerns about it. And we build off that in this next grant process.
Thank you.
4:30?
4:30 to 7. You don't have to stay the whole time. Make your comments and you go home.
Resolution 2024-130, resolution of support of a grant award extension from the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the Asbury Avenue Bikeways Project and Prospect Avenue and Bangs Avenue intersection upgrades project. Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-131, resolution appointing council members to serve on certain internal and standing committees and/or to serve as council liaisons.
Move it. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
We're now on to ordinances. Ordinance for introduction, ordinance 2024-3. Ordinance of the City of Asbury Park amending and supplementing certain sections of Chapter 5 entitled Beach Boardwalk and Beachfront Regulations of the Code of the City of Asbury Park in certain limited respects with a public hearing date of February 28th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yep.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
We're now on to second reading, public hearings of ordinances. Ordinance 2024-1, ordinance of the City of Asbury Park amending and supplementing various sections of Chapter 2 entitled Administration and subsection 30-22.1, establishment of Section 30-22, Zoning Board of Adjustment of Chapter 30, Land Development Regulations of the Code of the City of Asbury Park. Fred, would you be able to provide a brief overview on this ordinance?
Yes, in 2023, the law changed and it relates to municipalities that have nonpartisan elections. And in those towns, the terms of all elected council members now commence as of January 15th of the year, as opposed to January 1st. And the reorganization meeting is supposed to be held either at 12 noon on January 15th or within the 7-day period thereafter, rather than on January 1st or the 7-day period thereafter. So this is now just modifying our code to be consistent with the new state law, since Asbury Park is a nonpartisan election municipality.
Thank you, Fred. May I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2024-1?
Move to open. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing on ordinance 2024-1 is now open. If any member of the public would like to speak, please keep your comments on this ordinance only. State your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing on ordinance 2024-1 is now closed. May I have a motion to adopt 2024-1?
Move to adopt. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
I'll vote yes, but I gotta say it's one of the strangest laws I've ever seen Trenton pass.
Thank you.
Duly noted.
We're now on to ordinance 2024-2, ordinance of the City of Asbury Park amending and supplementing 4-1.4 entitled Fees of Chapter 4-1 Business Licenses of Chapter 4 General Licensing of the Code of the City of Asbury Park. Fred, can you also provide a brief overview on this ordinance?
Yes, similar to the last, this ordinance also is to effectuate some changes that were implemented at the state level by state law that require businesses, the owner of rental units, and the owners of multifamily homes to maintain certain insurance, and also to set an annual fee for a business insurance coverage registration that's required. So we're now putting into our code some provisions that were adopted at the state level, similar to the last ordinance.
Thank you, Fred. May I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2024-2?
Move to open. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing on ordinance 2024-2 is now open. Any member of the public who'd like to speak, please use the microphone.
Move to close.
Wait a second. Rita, you getting up?
Oh.
Okay. So there was a state law that was adopted that requires businesses and the owners of rental units and multifamily homes to maintain certain insurance coverage. And also it allows municipalities to have an annual registration relating to those types of businesses or units, and there being a fee for an annual certificate. And we're putting those provisions now into the city code.
That's it?
That's it.
May I have a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 2024-2?
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing on ordinance 2024-2 is now closed. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-2?
Move to adopt. Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Are you, yes. And Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Okay, if no one has anything else, we're on to adjournment. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Meeting now adjourned.